I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. I am Ben Dietrich. Jordan Rodelli is on vacation. Andrew Quo is here. Andrew Quo, how are you, buddy?
Super well, man. I am awesome. It's incredible. What a phase. What a year.
Happy July 4th. Finally, some fireworks.
That's right. July 4th. What's the best July 4th conspiracy we can muster as a collective group of creative thinkers?
Well, it's the one day when the CIA really comes together to make us all happy. The other times, it's a psychological operation. But they are genuine on July 4th. They are trying to amuse us and entertain us.
Maybe it's entrapment. Maybe they're like, look how incredible these fireworks can be when we all enjoy them to celebrate our nation. But when you do them on any other day, you're going to jail.
I wonder if we will see them subside, because typically the momentum is they kind of lead up to the 4th. This season's a little different. I'm wondering if it will at least tail off, or if it's just going to be like 3 more months of this. Look, I'm on the record as saying I think fireworks are amazing. I love
Incredible.
them. They're great.
Yeah.
They are going off until like 3 a.m. though around here. I'm just like, I'm on your side, guys. Just maybe a little earlier would be great.
I was in Brooklyn not too late the other night, maybe 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and I saw everyone popping off these fireworks, and they had the good ones. They were boxes. They come in these boxes, and you have one fuse, and then it lights them all in succession, so you just stand back and watch the show. And my first thought was, although these are pretty cheap, you can get like good ones for $20, the really good ones for $100. At some point, it gets expensive, right?
I think this year, what's also causing this proliferation of pyrotechnics is that they're cheap as shit in comparison to normally. I think they're like buy 3 for the price of 1, or like 60% off. So those ones you're talking about that would normally cost, $60, $80, I think are like $20. And that's why more people have those ones you're referring to, like 25 rockets go off of this one little box.
I went shopping for them on some websites just to see some like South Carolina, Philly prices, Pennsylvania prices, and they were on sale. But like the wizard ones, like the Excalibur ones, were like like they were still like $50, and they're amazing and they last a long time, which is like what, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes. You can go through that. It's like you're playing the slots. It's like, well, how much does one pull cost? Like $1. And then an hour later, you're like, I've pulled that lever 150 times.
All this fireworks talk has just made me want fireworks.
I love fireworks. Even sparklers. I cannot turn my gaze away from sparklers.
Did you ever have those little ones that I think they call them like snakes or something?
Oh yeah, they look like turds that like fart out of the ground, like the devil rising from hell, right? Like
what was that about?
Oh, those are really cool. Do you watch any of those like chemistry videos where science teachers like combine 2 chemicals together and they explode into giant foams?
I have seen a few of those, not on video, but maybe as a GIF.
Yeah, some of them are incredible and get out of control. I'm very into those.
I just want some fireworks to light my house on fire. Did you see that clip that was in the New York Times article? It's a video showing people accidentally setting a house on fire.
Oh, no.
They're outside shooting off fireworks.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to laugh at their misfortune, but the video is sped up. It's in fast motion. So they shoot one of those multi-rocket things off, and it goes directly into the window of the building that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, Jesus.
as the clip goes on, it shows them in fast motion, like, ha ha ha, shooting off tons and tons of fireworks, as you see the fire growing in the window of their apartment that they are just oblivious to, even though it's like 5 feet away. And then, of course, the entire building is on fire and it's roaring flames, and you see them freaking out and trying to like run inside to get things. So yes, not funny, but because it's in fast motion, it's like a Charlie Chaplin comedy.
Right. I mean, anything in fast motion or like a voice slowed down, so it's always funny.
But they're also screwing around, shooting off like 25 fireworks as you see their house on fire, like right next to them.
Yeah, that's funny / sad / scary / hilarious.
It works on so many levels.
I always think about that statistic when it snows in the winter and the deaths related to the snowfall, and I'm like, oh no, what happened? Did someone get into a car crash, or did like someone fall through some ice into a lake? And it's usually just men doing stupid stuff like shoveling snow off of their roof. So people who always present these numbers are like, just a point of advice: do not go out there and do anything, just stay inside. You do not need to like break ice off of your car right now on the side of the street. You do not need to shovel a foot of snow off of your roof. Just stay inside. And
Or if it's something like heart attacks.
Yeah, I thought it would be heart attacks, but it's just dudes doing stupid, dangerous stuff, like climbing a ladder during a snowstorm.
Well, it's like that. I mean, this applies to Russia, which is very snow drifted. But like the amount of injuries and deaths they have because people get drunk and do stuff.
Yeah.
Like just is spiraling. It's like the leading cause of death. It's like dumb shit while drunk.
I often think of things that young people do, like climb water towers or climb to the roofs of buildings to have like a view or spray paint stuff. And there's been like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 moments of my life where I'm like, how did I get into this situation where I could die? You know, it's like, oh, all of a sudden I'm 40 feet off the ground on a ladder. How did I get into this situation? And I'm like, I know how I did it. Someone told me to do it, and I did it. And this has a lot to do with someone lighting their house on fire. Like, how did that happen? What are the chances? It's like, well, I was lighting explosives very close to my house.
Yeah, one of them went in instead of missing my house.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah.
Eating lunch in the ashes.
How did I cut myself chopping carrots? It's like I was doing trick cuts. I was like, watch this. I'm not even looking.
So how's your cooking game these days? You're boycotting restaurants, right?
I'm not boycotting restaurants. I just haven't done it yet. I do takeout from like a couple spots a lot, like Wayla down the street, doing $5 lunch boxes, paying it forward too. So you can drop $5 and pay for the next customer. It's awesome. But
that's very cool.
Yeah.
I saw that map that has a listing of pretty much everywhere that's open. But I checked it today, and I'm not sure if it's been updated. But there's lists that says like 7,000 different places on there, and it kind of tells you what's open or what has seating. But, of course, the whole going out to lunch has become another like controversial action in this shameful society.
Is there anything that is not controversial? Like, can we all agree on something? Can you name one thing we all agree on right now?
It's okay to sit in your own house and soak beans in water and then boil them to let them know who's boss.
That is controversial, right? Because you're not an American patriot. You're not expressing your right to free speech. What is?
But I'm polishing my guns while
That's not controversial at all.
while the beans soak.
I've been buying frozen dinners and cutting up watermelon and just eating watermelon out of the fridge, but I put it into a bowl. I have a large container. I dump them into the bowl, and I go to a couch and eat the watermelon, not over the sink.
I feel like you're stepping up.
Well, as I'm chopping the watermelon, I eat some over the sink. I mean, how can you not? It's the most delicious fruit.
You are incorrigible.
I am overcooking, man. I am I am tired of boiling, baking, soaking, marinating, chopping. So
I'm so over it, man.
I'm tired. I am exhausted.
I made some dal for dinner tonight.
Huge.
I found it so mediocre.
Ah, man. I hear
And I was
you.
over rice, and I was just deeply unhappy that I'd spent 50 minutes stirring and soaking and cooking up, split yellow lentils and with turmeric, and made a little garlic talda or talca, whatever it's called. When you mix your herbs up and then you put them in with some oil at the very end. Anyway, it was so mediocre, and I was just really mad that I'd spent an hour with like a humble peasant ass mediocre, like it was like Staples pantry chefing Joe Ingles style dinner, just unrewarding.
Like, I fly into a rage about the dumbest things. One thing I always fly into a rage about, two things. When my soup spoon, falls into the soup completely. Like, I just get unreasonably upset. Unreasonable. Also, when food explodes in my microwave, I'm overcome with this anger that expresses itself in ugly ways. I'm also that way now about doing dishes after a mediocre meal during COVID. I am just flabbergasted, man. I'm doing these dishes. I'm sweating because I don't have my AC cranked yet. I don't think it's time. And I'm like, was it worth it? Shouldn't I just microwave Amy's enchilada? Those are pretty good and cost $4.
Okay, I'm going to backtrack here.
What's up?
You said it's not time for AC yet. It is the 4th of July weekend, and it was 90 degrees today.
Yeah.
What's the criteria that's lacking right now?
It has to be kind of unbearable. And I know I'm such a boomer about this, but I kind of wait until I have to do it, because not
So
only
you're
is
saying 90 degrees and humid is bearable.
in my house, it's been insulated in a way that didn't quite hit today. Tomorrow it might really hit because the bricks will like radiate it on their schedule. But in my house, it kind of takes a couple days for the temperature to have that, for the building to have that influence. You know what I mean?
Now, why do you have this stipulation? I mean, it's got to be like really gross, but you're like, well, I was there sweating, cooking my food, being angry. I'm like, well, it's something that AC could fix.
My AC is very loud. It's super loud where I can't watch TV, and like, it's just not it's an imposing presence in my house. So I don't love it, but I love a cool temperature. I'm also very cheap. So this is where the boomer thing comes in. I hate it when my July and August bills for electricity are just astronomical. It's just breathtaking, man.
I mean, I will, of course, turn my ACs off when I leave the house. I'm not a monster. But yeah, once it gets to be like mid-80s,
Yeah, I'll do that.
like AC all day.
But I keep my AC at 79, which is weird, I know. But it's not the coolest it could be, but it's not the hottest it could be either.
I guess there are diminishing returns when you set your air conditioner for 80 degrees and it's like 87 degrees. Like, why bother? I'm with you.
But it's a different kind of heat because it gets rid of the humidity. So it's nicer. It's crisper. The humidity is what gets you in New York, man. That's roach heaven. That's pizza rat.
We've got ourselves a boomer yelling about the humidity and how he doesn't want to turn the AC on. Oh, man. What are we
No,
going to
if
do?
it's not humid, I'm good. It's like that LA heat, man.
All right. Let's talk about something else that's hot.
Hot in these streets.
The Pop Smoke album.
And the Pop Smoke album cover debate. We covered it last time on Cookies.
We covered it thoroughly.
Yeah. And the most influential
well.
podcast, man. Come on.
One thing
we
I will
called
say
it.
is that you were right, and I might have been right on this one. I forget exactly who was right.
You were right.
But we were collectively right, and that we knew they were going to come up with a really generic bad cover that wouldn't be interestingly bad. It would just be generic, and they did. They did exactly what you would have thought. It was like clip art of a rose. on the cover or something.
A metal rose. We said it was going to be an image sort of like T.I.'s King, and it's a picture of T.I. on that album, but like an image in the middle of a black frame. And it was exactly that. And it was so disappointing. And we went through hours of Twitter roasting Virgil for this album cover.
His album cover was definitely better.
Definitely better.
At least it was stupid and funny and weird.
And like, maybe like this is why we can't have kind of thoughtful things. He's not going to win an art award or the Turner Prize for this album cover, but like barbed wire as a rose, fine, do it. You know, like, oh, this is like this Kendrick Lamar thing where it's just like this beautiful thing in a poor neighborhood that you think is ugly, but I'm going to beautify. I'm like, that's fine. I'm into it.
I mean, it's a tramp stamp, but sure, go off.
Right. I mean, it's not the best album cover I thought Virgil could make, but also it definitely crushes the official one, right?
Well, at least it has personality.
Yes. Yes.
You look at it and you're like, oh yeah, that's like goofy album cover. Maybe I kind of like it now. Maybe it's kind of iconic now.
Oh, definitely. It's probably the most memorable album cover in the last 10 years now, right? Everyone can tell you about it. It's like, get this. There was a clip art picture of him with some barbed wire that was really big and some flowers that were metal. Let me ask you a question, though. Would you rather have something that is memorable or funny or maybe even thoughtful or something everybody likes? This is a pop question. Not Pop Smoke question, but like popular thing question.
I don't know. I don't think we ever tried to do anything that everybody likes, so I'm going to have to go with the first one.
I never can do anything everyone likes.
That's never our intention,
Yeah.
but also we can't do it, so I'm just going to go with the first.
I mean, we could turn cookies into just like interviewing ballers we can get our hands on, and they can be like, well, I play to win the game, and I practice every day, and I have to rely on my teammates because we win and lose as a team.
But
we don't
like
do that, right?
though? That doesn't sound like people would like that. That sounds terrible.
I know.
That sounds like what we do.
I know, like, or we can talk about more Keanu Reeves movies. We've done
John
this before.
Wick 5 podcast. John Wickables.
the John Re-Wickables. But I was thinking about this because I love a perfect pop song, and that's crowdsourced. You know, people know what works, and they take these producers take bits and pieces of all these hits and create something even more perfect. And I love hearing that. When I hear an Ariana Grande song, I'm just like, there is so many levels of genius going on. This is like an electrifying 3 minutes. But when I see it in art, a visual art, it kind of falls flat. And, you know, like, I think that may be why some people are like, my kid could do that. Because sometimes pop art is so obvious that it seems like it's in your subconscious already. Be like, I had that idea. It's like, well, sure. That's how pop works.
Yes, I agree with that. Can we talk about how Pop Smoke's album works?
Yeah, what do you think?
I think it ties very neatly back to a conversation we had a couple weeks ago about Biggie Smalls' Life After Death. And that was the East Coast prototype for exactly what, in my opinion, this Pop Smoke album is and intended to be, which was one album for everyone.
So many guests.
You know, here are all the Down South tracks. Here's the West Coast track. Here are the girl tracks. I mean, he kind of just remade like the Tamia Fabulous Into You song. I mean, same beat. Mm-hmm. Fireworks. When the New York Times story talking about his final days interviewed a whole slew of people who were tied to it, 50 Cent came up a bunch. And his influence is deeply felt on this album as well. Not only does he have a guest appearance, but they use like the Many Men hook on one song. There's an interpolation from Magic Stick or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then he also kind of uses like the Bloodhound cadence on another song. So there's all these elements that are kind of overt in an album that I didn't anticipate it being like that, even though they sort of told us it was going to be. I still didn't expect it. And I get there, I'm like, why is Quavo on like 3 songs? I don't get that. So I'm disappointed by it in that I wanted it to be his version of a DMX album. I wanted it dark and mean and, you know, all his own sonic sound in the same way that Swizz defined the Rough Rider sound, and Pop Smoke had that like Brooklyn drill sonic like restlessness and aggression, and it sounded so cool. This album doesn't really even have that very much.
Yeah, I wanted it to be more modern. I was disappointed, and I agree with you. And I think what you're talking about was what I was thinking about with modernity, being like, let's leave like the religion of rap alone and have Pop Smoke, his last album, stand alone as him in his artwork, just showing us how far he got in such a short time. But by adding all these historical, kind of geographical, self-aware references into his album, it kind of makes it like this post-modern kind of stew, right? A one-pot stew. And that's like maybe the strength and weakness in something like Life After Death, and maybe the reason why we love Ready to Die so much, because it was such a singular presentation of someone's idea. What does the album cover mean? I mean, what does the album title mean?
Shoot for the stars, aim for the moon. I don't know, because from a cosmological standpoint, you know, those are very different targets.
Yeah, and they are in the same general vicinity. It made me think, like, at first, maybe I have a Pop Smoke blind spot. Maybe it's a specific reference to something that I'm not recalling right now. But I was like, is it a Star Wars reference? I know you don't like kids movies. But I don't, it's like Shoot for the Stars. It's kind of like this Frank Sinatra kind of New York. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere kind of idea. And it's like a melancholy idea about his death a little bit. But
and Aim for the Moon is, of course, a classic Mr. Show sketch.
Mm-hmm. I still don't quite understand it. It feels like it's not a resolved like line in a poem.
Yeah, it also feels counterintuitive. Like, I'm not trying to mock his art here. I'm just saying, if you were going to shoot for the stars, aiming at the moon doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I guess they're two separate acts. It's more just like, get really elevated, really go all the way, take it to the top. I think we're probably reading a little too much into this.
When I was walking through Brooklyn while I saw those fireworks, every block someone was playing Pop Smoke. It was wild. There was no anthem because everyone was playing different songs, but everyone was playing Pop Smoke. It was incredible. This is his moment, man. Like, he is, I mean, we talked about this on the last episode. Yo, he's dead. He's not around. And I think this would have happened if he didn't die. I think if he was alive and doing shows.
Same. Absolutely. Yeah. To me, this does not have anything to do with his death.
No. He was primed for this, man.
Yeah, I agree. You know, on one hand, what I want out of a Pop Smoke album may not be what he wanted or what the label wanted. And what he wanted and what the label wanted are hard to tell at this point, right? Mm. You know, was this the LP that he said, this is my introduction, this is exactly what I want? Or did the label say after he died, well, look, our priorities just changed. He can't tour off this. There's not going to be another album as far as we know.
Right.
This has to be on like Rap Caviar for the next year and a half with a different song every week. Yeah. This needs to have 7 songs that go on the radio. That's how we're going to recoup all the money that we put into this. And I don't know that that's the case. I'm just speaking as far as like, this feels very much like an album that was designed by a label, because it feels like like as we were talking about, it feels like a early 2000s version of what you want an album to sound like.
Yeah. And I think the thing I love to think about is I've been waiting forever for grime to be big in America. And when Dizzy came out, I was like, oh, this is incredible. This is going to take the U.S. by storm. 20 years later, like, we have a form, because grime over there evolved into UK drill.
You framed the Kano Fader cover.
Yo, I love Kano so much. And, like, but a lot of what plagued grime superstars in the UK was them putting out albums like this with singers, with pop songs, and like Dizzy kind of betrayed his earlier fans but became a bigger star. Roll Deep, Wiley, all those amazing rappers from that crew kind of went for the superstar route, and why wouldn't you, right? And we don't know if that's a pressure from the label or that's the evolution of the art form. And then because all these rappers like Kano went big and glitzy and huge and won, MTV London Awards, whatever, you had this bubbling up of like UK drill. And I'm simplifying this whole subculture. And then UK drill started coming up, and these videos started popping up on YouTube of these kids just with these dark beats, like with the covered faces, then big crews of like 10 guys, and then they would form off. It was kind of like K-pop. They would break off and have their own groups, and then they would mix and match. And then finally, maybe like 4 years ago in Brooklyn, we get Brooklyn drill, and Pop Smoke comes up, and it is not ironic that his last album after all that time is kind of a turn towards pop superstardom.
Yeah, I wish it was a Brooklyn drill album in the way that it would have been defining of a genre. But as we were saying, people have different goals. That's the whole thing that we talk about in the NBA all the time. Why do people make decisions they make? Because the owner wants to do something.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you pull the plug? Why are you bringing out this 40 and this 41 and 41 team? What's the point? The owner doesn't want to rebuild. Okay, cool. Get ourselves a Taj. Get ourselves a Bobby Portis. Let's go to war with the guys we got.
I was watching Double Jeopardy, the Ashley Judd thriller. I've seen that movie so many times, and I was thinking that moment, and I put this on Twitter, that moment where her husband realizes she can't be tried for the same crime twice. I was like, oh, this is James Dolanhole's thing. Like, he's like, how can you charge me for the same crime twice? I've done this before, man.
This is how I win.
Yeah. I've already paid the price. I cannot pay the price again. Here's Taj Gibson, fellas.
But, all right, so my final take on the Pop Smoke album is I did like a lot of the songs. I just wanted a cohesive sort of statement artwork from Pop Smoke. Be like, here's what I left you with. This is my world, my vision. Like, take an hour, just immerse yourself in, like, Canarsie Brooklyn drill with his sort of wrathful, bounty killer voice of God. And, like, just like, go all the way in. I'm hoping now, after hearing this album, that I will like a lot of these songs.
It's pretty good.
That's my new thing. I'm like, when I flipped through them and listened to some of them, I thought a lot of them sounded good.
Yeah.
They weren't necessarily what I wanted from him, but they sounded cool. I hope they're successful. I hope, money is earned from that and goes to his loved ones.
Yeah, and I think when the artist dies, the estate, there's a lot of people with opinions, and like you said, a lot of people with different intentions, and not bad intentions, but this is how I think this is going to succeed the most. And there's divergent ideas on that.
I'm sorry, this is just coming in. It sounds like Dietrich is critical of it. We're scrapping the album. We're going to put it back out with a new track listing. We're going to resequence it. The fans have spoken.
This is the Shine record on Bad Boy. It's like, I've heard this before. But I think
it did make me go back and listen to that Fabulous Tamia song like 7 times today.
Fabulous is incredible, man. Like, can we talk about how amazing of a rapper he is? I'm partial because I love to hear like NBA rhymes, obscure NBA references in tightly wound ciphers, but like
I mean, I think he did do some domestic abuse, so I'm going to separate the man from his art for a second.
Absolutely.
I'm with you on this. In terms of like the elite basketball referencers, Fab is up there. Lloyd Banks, Joe Button, obviously, but that
Lil
goes without
Wayne.
saying. Wayne, pretty good. I mean,
His heart's not totally in it.
no. He likes basketball, but he's a casual. He doesn't have those deep cuts.
He's not from this planet, man.
Lloyd Banks, more foreign shooters than the
Lloyd
Sacramento
Banks.
Kings.
Yeah. What about Tribe Called Quest?
Not strong enough.
Not strong enough. Yeah.
But Benny the Butcher or Conway the Machine, one of those two guys, I forget who it is. One of those guys from Griselda has like very, very good basketball lines. Like really excellent stuff. I'm like, oh, you're a future Cookies guest. Respect.
I was always hoping that there would be a sports news network that would just either report the sports news as a comedy sketch or as raps. I thought that would have been hilarious because, like if Stretch and Bobbito if these guys can have guys on freestyling every night, like, could we just go through the scores? Like, this could be funny.
Also, our boy, your old Droog, deserves a shout out here because he claimed not to really know basketball, but then dropped a song referencing Robert Pack and like Rick Smits and stuff. So,
did he rhyme pack with attack?
I think it was something about Robert Pack and like rob your pack or something along those lines. I believe it
very
was
creative. I like that.
a first name, last name, Gambit.
Shout out to Drew, friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod. Maybe we'll have him on soon. He's been on twice already, maybe 3 times.
He's a lovely dude, man.
Do you have anything else on pop?
I mean, it sucks, right? Like that. This is
Sucks.
maybe like this is the last time we can talk about like new pop smoke music because now everything's gonna be like from the vaults. We found some recordings, and this is the whole thing. And whatever.
Yeah.
He just died too soon. I'm bummed, but cool that we got
Such a
this
bummer.
record.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, my heart dropped when I opened up Spotify and saw Quavo on like 2 of the first 4 tracks and then Future. I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? The single with Rowdy Rebel, I'm like, yes, keep it outer borough, keep it striving.
Yeah.
But like Quavo on 2 of the first 5 songs.
But the internet loved it, like that's what the internet got what it wanted. It got their album cover and it got the album that they wanted. And that Quavo song went viral because it was a devoured, and it was a consensus approval rating on the internet. And I don't necessarily enjoy that. Like, I think it belongs in politics, but not in our art and not in science. Like, we don't all have to agree that our climates are changing. We just have to do something about it.
Right. I mean, look, I don't think Pop Smoke should be making an album for me. I'm talking about what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, I agree.
This kind of idea, if you apply it to basketball, think about like the early to mid 90s Cleveland Cavaliers.
Do I have to?
You do.
Early to mid 90s. Are we talking
You do.
Danny
You
Ferry?
have to think about, yes, Danny Ferry was there, Terrell Brandon.
Brad Doherty? No.
Doherty, end of Doherty's run.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Price was around and then left. So Coach Mike Fratello, the czar of the telestrator, he had the idea that runs very counterintuitive to today's basketball, that he was going to slow things way, 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 way down. They were playing
grind it out, huh?
They were playing at like 82 possessions a game. Like 82. There was a couple year span where I think they had the 2 slowest paces in the history of the NBA in like back-to-back
In the
years.
shot clock era.
In the shot clock era, yeah. But like they were the slowest ever, for sure. And then their second one might have been second slowest or third slowest. Whatever the case, they were walking the ball up the court, playing this incredibly boring way of basketball, and people hated it. And they were okay. They were decent. My question is, if they would have been much worse playing a different way, which is, of course, debatable, look, were they right in trying to win, playing in a way that people hated?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. That's why I support the Bucks. This is the Bucks debate we have, the 2020 Bucks. I agree with all your points that this is an unethical way to behave in an analytics era. I think it's okay. Beat them.
I mean, look, I fundamentally think that you should use this strategy that helps your team win,
Yeah.
even if it turns people off. I agree with that. But as a product, the NBA doesn't love it. It's weird, right? Because the NBA winning is all that matters.
Yeah.
But if you are the NBA and you're putting together a checkers challenge, you're putting together a burger bubble, you actually need to have a good product. And that was why in the early 2000s they changed the rules, because teams were doing what they had to do to win, and you ended up with the Spurs and the Pistons in the finals with two of the best defensive ratings in the history of the sport, literally 1 and 2, and it was unwatchable.
Hey, man.
Like, it is an interesting balance.
Yeah, the
Like,
Charlie
how do you
Ward
let
Knicks.
people rig the system in order to win while keeping the game watchable?
I mean, this is like an ethical issue, right? With the stock market, with big business, with taxation, for sure. Like, but back to more fun things like the Pop Smoke record. Do you think the way this last album existed is by any means necessary, like Mike Fratello and his offense? Or do you think making an artwork like something like Illmatic, where it's just like Nas's vision, his singular vision through an album, is that any means necessary?
Yeah, it goes back to what you're saying, because art is different than, like, is winning selling a lot of records?
Right. What empirical value system are you using here?
Right, because you can say Illmatic was geared towards getting 5 mics. That was a championship to him in that era. Today, it might be selling 2 million records.
Yeah, yeah. Or streaming a million off of a week.
It might not be just critical acclaim.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think anyone does anything for critical acclaim anymore anyway.
I mean, thankfully, right?
Yeah,
Like,
no, I'm saying I think that's good.
it is good. Like, I love gatekeepers, but also more gatekeepers is funny when it's just like The Source or Vibe or Rolling Stone. You get kind of like corruption kind of slips in there a little bit, right? It's like, ooh, this record got a 10 out of 10, 5 mics, best new music, and then you turn the page, it's like, here's a festival by us featuring this said artist, you know?
I mean, when I was writing features for music magazines and realizing that the tickets were being bought by the label
Yeah.
for where they were flying me, I was like, this is kind of not that kosher.
Yeah. Like, I love Pitchfork so much, man, but how do we reconcile the Pitchfork Music Fest?
I just don't think. Look, I think critics are a good thing. I think we should have
yeah.
people
I love it.
addressing art and writing about art and thinking about art and offering their opinions on it. I think that's great, and I think we should have a wider scope of criticism from different voices. And talking about art. I think that's fantastic to have.
It's Twitter, right?
No, I'm saying, well, sure, but I'm talking about like gatekeepers. I don't think we should say, let's get rid of the gatekeepers. I think gatekeepers are less powerful now. But I think we should have, people who have interesting and thoughtful ideas and are good writers and good at expressing themselves and think about art in different ways. Like, I don't think we should get rid of the critical class overall.
There's a huge issue in the contemporary art world where the two main critics are Jerry Saltz and Roberta Smith, and they happen to be married and write reviews in the same room famously, and they're awesome. I'm a huge fan of them, but like, can we get a third? Is that possible? No. Okay, maybe next generation will get through like another art critic that isn't those two, and they're incredible. Like, they deserve all the praise. They're thoughtful. I think they've nailed many ideas on the nose, But I agree. Like, can we get like voices out there? And I think Twitter. I mean, there's a blue check Twitter, but Twitter does a good job of that until it starts becoming the gatekeepers are commenting on everything, and then it kind of fractures at that point when you have like chefs talking about activism. It gets confusing.
I'm mostly speaking about, outlets and whether people write them and get paid, or whether people write them for their own, website, their own blog, whatever. I just think having good writing and smart ideas from a huge breadth of people is just really important.
Yeah.
That era when it was the rockists, I'm like, that shit is done. I don't want that to return. I don't want there to be a handful of, Gen X white dudes who are deciding what and what is not good rap music. Like that to me is not ideal. I think we should have a lot of different voices with a lot of different ideas of different ages. But
that's my buddy Kay, Rockism. That was a famous piece in the New York Times. That changed the whole paradigm.
Yeah, I want to hear more opinions from different groups, whether it's like race or age or gender. Like I just want more voices to tell me what they're thinking about, like the same art that we're all digesting.
Yeah, and I want young people to take this. I want these Zoomers to like. I love media, the media. I love like writers who write about music. Like, it is my favorite thing. But I'm from that. We're both from that generation, and there's a few young guys out there, young people out there who are writing about Pop Smoke and all these new rappers, and it's incredible. And I hope there's the platforms where they can like make a living off of this, because
I'm sure the writers are out there. I'm more worried about that part.
Yeah.
Where I think it's very difficult, especially right now, to say, I'm going to be a music critic and believe that will be your actual job.
I don't know if any job out there after COVID is going to have like a singular standalone value, other than like doctors and dentists. Outside of that, in like the world we operate in, like, can there be an MBA writer anymore that doesn't also write about a restaurant or a movie? Like, we just have to be like these multiple voices of ourselves, right? Isn't this what Andy Warhol predicted?
What did he say?
I don't know. Like, I only say him because this is like a deeply postmodern idea, right? Like, after the singularity of breaking away from religion and the world wars that happened on this planet, and then like the art that came out of that experience had a specific point of view in this singularity, visually. And there's modern writing, but I'm not as knowledgeable about that stuff as I am just visual art. But I wonder like what modernity has to offer now. It just doesn't seem like much.
I mean, at the same time, the modernity that you're referring to is different today than it was 4 months ago.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, like, shit, man.
What? Yeah.
I'm new to this too.
It's like, you're an amazing musician. You were the best rapper ever. But what do you think about politics? It's like, whoa, okay, I spend all of my time rapping, but let me give this a shot. It's like, we don't like your answer.
Also, well, you're an absolute virtuoso on guitar. You ready to go on no tours again for the rest of your life?
Yeah. Are DJs over? Like, it's like, oh, I am the best DJ. I used to fill rooms on, I used to go to Vegas and play these gigantic rooms with bottle service and everything. And now that just doesn't exist anymore. So now I'm an activist, or, I'm volunteering for politics. It's crazy.
We are now a nation of poets.
Is that because of Twitter?
At long last.
Yeah. I mean,
we did it.
We're a nation of streetwear designers, probably.
Oh. Also, I do want to offer my condolences. Oops, sorry.
No, that was drum roll.
No, some bad news. Your girl Ghislaine
Oh,
was
Ghislaine. Ghislaine? Ghislaine.
Ghislaine. Your girl Ghislaine was brought to justice. Another girl boss felled.
What was she doing in New Hampshire?
That house looked great for $1 million.
Wait, it was only $1 million.
Yeah, $1 million. I'm like, $1 million. That's a studio in Fort Greene. You
Well,
have a palatial estate.
New York City real estate is a whole different thing entirely.
I know, but that was a palatial estate, like a nice A-frame, great room.
Me and my buddy tried to figure out what the most famous person in Queens, who the most famous person in Queens was, and we found the most expensive home in Queens, which was $8.8 million. That looked exactly like Ghislaine's house in New Hampshire. Ghislaine.
But Ghislaine does not have access to, say, Little Pepper, some of the finest Szechuan food on the planet that you can find in Queens.
Do we have access to Little Pepper anymore?
No, it's so far away.
And is it open? Did it survive the COVID?
I looked it up a couple days ago, and I think they're doing pickup.
Dude, my favorite Spicy Tasty bit the dust like 4 years ago. So I have no hope for anybody.
Let me get you off your doomer content. Back to your girl.
G-Lane. Why didn't she live on a street called G-Lane? That's all I got.
You got a firework out of it.
Boom.
Well, what does this mean for Jeff?
What does it mean for his legacy? Or what does it mean? He's chilling. You think he's chilling right now somewhere? What is your conspiracy level on this?
My conspiracy level is fairly low. Like, do I think that Ghislaine will be strangled in a cell tonight? Yeah, sure.
Right. That's going to happen. Done.
Yeah, no question.
By a little green hand?
I mean, the cameras have already been,
Spray painted over.
The lenses have already been cracked.
Right.
The AA batteries have been removed.
You know those New Hampshire prisons. You never trust them. Why wasn't she on? Is she
going to spill the beans?
The question is, are there beans to spill? Because I think we are just asking for confirmation as like a weird conspiracy Twitter verse, right? We have assumed certain things could be true, and we're just waiting for confirmation. What if those things aren't true? I don't know, man. This is all very confusing to me and abstract.
First of all, she needs to soak the beans. Then she needs to give them a hard boil to let them know who's boss.
And then she can put anything in that pot from the fridge that has been withering in.
And then she can spill said beans. I would like to see her cough up info. Take add at least something to the Glizzygate.
Are you looking for like a Trump smoking gun?
I want them all. Take them all down. I want the names of every single person that she procured underage girls for.
Yeah.
Like I want all their names. Let's get them out there. It's him dying, or being killed, or killing himself. However, or escaping and being out of the media circus. Like, that was such a huge coup for all these motherfuckers who people know what they did. And she is one of the few people who knows. So, let's go.
Are Pizzagate having a moment?
Because Pizzagate people don't even like this.
Are they anti this?
I think they are all in on Epstein was murdered by Hillary or something.
Yeah.
But they don't want reality. People who are into Q like a fantasy world. They don't actually want to follow the news. They like science fiction.
True. Did I tell you I watched that documentary about the actual Pizzagate with the pizza restaurant? It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, people walking in with machine guns and stuff. I didn't know it was like a playroom. Like, you could shoot like mini buckets and have pizzas. And there's like bowling and stuff.
Yeah, it's Comet Pizza, right? It's the place that has all the sex trade dungeons beneath it.
Right. Above the Papa Shop, or below the Papa Shop, right. I don't know. It's like I've been trying to actively not even enter the world of any conspiracy, which is very difficult because they're not only hilarious and fun, sometimes I don't even realize I'm like in a world of something that is completely fabricated. Because I read Twitter, but I don't know what to make of any of this because it all is wild. It is. If it was in a movie, I wouldn't believe it.
There are so many odd internecine connections where Epstein was hired without any credentials to be a teacher at an extremely exclusive New York City private school by Bill Barr's father. Like it's so sordid and interwoven with wealth and society and power. Like, so Bill Barr's father, who also apparently reportedly wrote, weird science fiction books that had underage sex in them, hired this absolute nobody.
Wait, what? Say that again. Really?
Bill Barr's father hired Epstein for his first job, which was to be a teacher, despite the fact that he had no credentials at all.
I hilarious, man. I mean,
there's so many of these little connections that I'm not a conspiracy theorist, except when it comes to Adam Silver and the Sixers. That's my only conspiracy
and the BMM.
theory. And the BMM. Maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist. The little green hand is everywhere.
We all are, man.
Oh, respect, Chapo. Welcome. The Trap House has opened its doors.
Did they finally get
the
BMM woke?
Yeah, they were like, wait a minute. Why are there two famous Wahlbergs? Like, I have the answer to that, friend.
Why is there one famous Wahlberg?
All he committed was like the lightest of hate crimes.
Yeah, I mean, he's a better person now, but he does not want to talk about it at all.
Why would he?
I know. Why would anybody want to talk about that?
I know you want to talk about my new Boston-based Netflix show. It's about Southie. But let's talk about my hate crimes, the assault that I committed on a Vietnamese man.
I know you want to talk about the 6th installment of Transformers, about some moon and some robots, but I really want to talk about beating a guy blind.
And I want it to be a real punch-by-punch account.
Right.
Yeah, I think he is a better person now for sure. But yes, Chapo Trap House is now woke to the fact that there is a BMM.
It doesn't take much. Wikipedia really helps here. If you just follow media and you search names, it's just like born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts. I don't know. Give it a shot.
just for the sake of argument,
yeah.
Just to see. I was curious. I went through the Basketball Reference website to see who came up with like BPM, a stat that we've cited on this show, and I feel like is fairly reasonable. But they did recently adjust it in order to make Jason Tatum look better. I think that's a conspiracy.
Well, he certainly looked. He benefited quite a bit from it.
Oddly enough.
Yeah.
And looks like the guy who came up with that stat lives in Maine. Interesting. Very interesting. And the two guys who do PIPM, both Celtics fans.
Oh, weird. Tatum also notoriously does amazing in PIPM.
So weird.
I know. Well, it's funny because the BPM 1, box plus minus the first version, Tatum was like not a hero in that category.
No, he was utterly mediocre.
And it swung so far the other way that most scientists would say, like, both these studies cancel each other out. We cannot have BPM. But instead, they're like, this is the new shit.
Slap that little green hand away.
Yeah. When your results vary like that, you have to throw the whole thing away. And that's just part of the process.
It's part of the BMM.
The bean media mafia. Yeah, I don't know. I think everyone should get BMM woke. I think it helps explain things, and you're not losing your mind when you watch Jason Tatum play, and you're like, he's not that good, but why is everyone telling me he's an MVP candidate? That's the correct feeling. That's not conspiracy at play.
You're not crazy.
Yes, you're just someone who sees the truth.
Yeah, that's true. You've been gassed up, man. Stovepiped. It's weird that Ghislaine was found in New Hampshire.
Why wasn't she in some tropical island drinking a Mai Tai like all these Ashley Judd movies we see, all like the Hannibal Lecter movies? Like, why isn't she in like some untraceable tropical island?
Yeah, was she excited for becoming fall's leaf peeping? Like, why would you stay in New Hampshire? I don't know.
What does New Hampshire have to offer? No
Proximity
disrespect
to the Celtics.
I mean, I went to school in Providence, and aside from having a couple, 3 or 4 really great schools there wasn't much going on. It was very Boston adjacent, and I think they were most famous for that awful club that burned down during, I believe, like a Whitesnake show, but also like hot dogs. And you're from Rochester, so you smell me on this. They were famous for this meat sauce that you put on hot dogs in Woonsocket.
On Glizzy's?
Not Glizzy's. It was called New York System was the restaurant. And they were really famous for these hot dogs with meat sauce. They were just like not that awesome, but I really love Providence. Remember there was that show Providence?
I'm going to be totally honest to you and to all of our listeners. I have no idea where Providence actually is. I don't know where Rhode Island is. It's a blind spot. I'll be honest. If I look at a map, I don't know where Rhode Island is and where Providence is. Is it near Boston? Is it near Delaware? I don't know any of these things. I have no idea where they are.
Come on, that's where Lamar Odom got his first taste of stardom, man.
Is it connected to Jersey? I just don't know any of these things.
No, it's in the grip of the tiny green hand, man. It is tiny green hand adjacent. It's as if the green hand put on a green glove. That glove is Rhode Island.
But it's Italian.
It's very Italian, man. It's been a long time, but Capitol Hill, the hill was all Italian, and that was Buddy Cianci. Remember that mayor who beat up his wife's boyfriend and put him in his trunk? There was a great podcast about it called Crime Town. It was amazing. Yes. That's when I was in Providence.
Did not know that it was right next to Boston. I had no idea where it was.
It was Patriots country, man. It was Red Sox Patriots country. Celtics, not so much.
If you told me it was adjacent to Virginia or Maryland, I would have bought it.
I always think Idaho is near Chicago. Boy, am I wrong. It just looks like it would belong near those Great Lakes.
Yeah, see, exactly. I have never thought that. But again, I just told you that I thought that Rhode Island was part of the Delmarva Peninsula, so whatever.
Are there things in your life that at one time you thought you should know, but now you're just like, oh, I'll just never know that, and that's fine? Like, I can't name all 50 states on a map. I can probably get to 43, 44, but be like, is that Alabama?
You clearly have huge Idaho issues.
Yeah, that's one that I'll never get. And then that'll be 2 because I'll misplace the proper Idaho.
Well, I mean, this is definitely engrossing radio, but
Thanks.
I would have a lot of trouble with the Tennessee, Kentucky area down there. I think if you gave me a few minutes, I could sort it out. Because I know Kentucky is beneath Ohio, and then I would figure out which was North Carolina. I think by a process of elimination, I could figure out that little, damp groin of the map right there.
When you give up on your dreams of like knowing how to speak fluent Spanish or like knowing how to deep fry a turkey, when do you give those up?
When you're like, you know what? I probably never will play the piano.
Everyone has to go through this, right? Like, I will never know how to build a website. I thought I would learn one day. I just don't think I'll ever do it. I will never read another book. Fight
I
me.
will never watch a game of basketball that's not part of the Checkers Challenge.
I refuse to watch NBA basketball until it lets the relegated New York Knicks back in.
They're not even on the call.
They were the only ones without a representative on the call. Like, you couldn't send Iggy Brzdakis to a phone just to sit there, be like, Iggy's here. Okay, we can start the meeting.
Speaking of relegated franchises, it looks like the name Redskins is about to get relegated.
Finally.
At long last.
I mean, we talked about this last week, right? Like, or 2 weeks ago.
Maybe. Who can say?
This was something that was so simple and so easy to do that when it happens, it's going to be very strange, because we've been talking about this for decades now, and Snyder, the owner, has always been like, the Redskins are a bigger idea than this word. They've transformed this word into something positive because we're a positive team. It also doesn't help that they've been they're the Knicks of the NFL. But I won't believe it until I see it. He says he's considering it. And FedEx, their sponsor for the stadium name, I think they invest up between $200 and $300 million to have that right, requested that they change it. Nike pulled all of their football merchandise from Washington, D.C. off of the website. So there's power moves being made, and ball's in Snyder's court.
Yeah, well, it's absolutely obscene that it still exists. Just beyond the pale.
I like to ignore a lot of things that muddy up my day, but this actually is one of the things that always makes me angry. When I love No Sin Bin, I love that game, and I tune in, and when I see that team, I'm just like, can we change this? It's just such a foul word. Like, let's not hear this word again. That would be cool.
Yeah, it's just foul.
Yeah.
It's just foul. It's not something that's a now awkward or now problematic appropriation. It's just foul.
This is not a contrarian take. It's a bad word that we can get rid of. I think we mostly all agree on that. There are contrarians who would say, like, well, we're not even sure if American natives mostly care about this. Like, if the one of them cares, we got to get rid of it. It's like,
yeah, since when did it become a referendum on every Native American, whether they want to keep it or not?
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of them are like, we have bigger issues.
Yeah, many. And Snyder has pointed to that, being like, well, here's an American native who is okay with it. And we're like, this is not how it works. This is not a consensus. This is not a jury. If one person feels this way, you could still change it. But
the
jury,
name of the fucking team is Redskins.
Just get rid of
It's
it.
foul.
Yeah.
Change it.
And your merchandise will have a boon when you change it, because everyone will have to get new stuff. And we know this works. Like when the Kings changed their colors to black, the Hockey Kings, everyone bought that. Like, just make something cool, and their fans will buy it.
So there have been a few suggestions for new names floating around. One of them was the Washington Red Tails.
I don't love that.
I get the historical significance.
Yeah.
Don't love the name, though.
Yeah.
I like the Grays. I think that's cool. Like an homage to the Negro League team of the Washington Homestead Grays. I think that'd be a cool nod to like the sports of the area. Mm-hmm. What else we got? Washington Presidents? Washington monuments.
you have the Capitals in hockey. I think we should go culinary. It should be the Washington oysters for those famous Chesapeake Bay oysters, or like, what like
Baltimore Ravens, like, excuse me.
yeah, my bad
We're
there.
the Baltimore Crabs.
Yeah, it should be like the DC crap. Well, what do they eat in DC? Let's just call it their most famous food. I mean, it should be the Philly cheesesteaks. We know this. Everyone knows this.
Oh, what about the DC extended universe?
Okay, I love that. I love it. That's great. That's the best one I've heard. Even though you are a DC hater, so it's odd that it comes from you. But I enjoy that. What about?
I got another one. DC hot. Do you know that phrase?
No.
Oh, it's like, is someone attractive? Well, they're like DC hot.
What's the DC stand for? I'm scared for this answer.
District of Columbia.
Okay. Why? Are there very attractive people in
No.
Washington, D.C.?
No, because they're notoriously not good looking. So you have to go on an entirely different scale for people in Washington, D.C. because it's DC hot.
I love an adjective.
No offense to anyone who's from
sure.
DC or listening. You know, this is a juvenile misconception of the beautiful people of your.
Well, DC's having
your
a moment.
non-state.
DC's having a moment because they might be the 51st state, right?
So they should be.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, representation with taxation is why we have this country. So we finally have figured out that they may need some representation.
There's more people there than in like 6 or 7 states.
Yeah.
So either get rid of those, like, okay, Wyoming, the Dakotas, mush all that shit together. You're not states anymore.
So
you're just weird territories.
If they do expansion with DC
on mountains
and Puerto Rico, the flag's going to look real weird, right? There's going to be people angry about this, like, well, you can't change our flag now. It's going to be lopsided grid.
Just leave it the same, whatever. Just tell people there's 52 stars on it. Who's going to count?
Yeah, we don't need no flags anymore, man.
Quote was over there like, which one of these is Idaho?
I'll always get that. Well, I know what Idaho looks like. It's just much
you don't
more
even know
farther
which
west.
star is Idaho.
Show me Idaho's star. But what if it was like DC shoes, AC/DC, DC Independence? I don't know, man. The Wizards didn't crush it. The Bullets were fantastic.
What about DC Voltage?
I love that.
I feel like I've got some good names.
You had
Voltage?
two.
It's not bad.
I like those two. I like them.
DC Hot fell flat.
Yeah, but the gray, I don't like that.
No, I think that's a good name for the historically.
I love colors for team names like the Browns and the Reds. Amazing. The NBA should get on that. Phenomenal. And the logo is just that color. The Browns have to have a helmet that's the color brown for their logo on their helmet. It's awesome.
Yeah, those are the only names I got. I got nothing else.
The Jordans? I mean, people want to erase history and forget the greatest wizard that ever put on that uniform. But maybe the football team should take that mantle.
The Washington Walls. Both for the President's Border Initiative and the legendary King John Wall.
The Washington New Beals? No.
All right, we're going to stop doing this. So it's time to talk about the Checkers Challenge.
Oh, I can't wait.
Apparently the NBA is really going to do this.
Yo, players are... It's happening.
This game of chicken between the owners and the Players Association is going to end up with people in a burger bubble and a Checkers Challenge.
We'll finally find out if Steph Curry can handle RJ Barrett in this tournament format. It's going to be incredible. Can you imagine the Warriors versus the Knicks? Like, must-see TV, man.
Draymond Green, Bobby Portis.
Is Clay going to come back just for this matchup? It's going to be incredible, man. Is D'Angelo Russell still on the team? No. No, Wiggins. All right. So future Nick Andrew Wiggins is going to have to play versus his
Oh
team.
man, I can't wait to see this. Drummond, Kevin Love, Colin Sexton. The Cavs are back.
Cavs back. Cedi Osman.
I can't believe they're that money grubbing. Like they couldn't help themselves. Just their brazen greed. Actually, we're gonna have everybody play. Yeah, we're gonna do it in Chicago. All the bad teams are gonna play for no reason whatsoever.
Are there going to be
They
enough
just do foul
players?
shit, man.
Are the Golden State Warriors going to have enough players to play a game? You got to think like Steph Curry's going to be like, "Oh, I have to rehab because my hand didn't quite heal correctly." And Draymond Green is going to be like, "I'm too busy punching every ball I can see, except basketballs." And
They traded away your boy Alec Burks. They traded away your boy Big Dog 3.
those are my boys. And we're just going to get G League representatives for these teams, right?
Oh, it's the Wiggins and Paschal show.
I like Paschal.
But again, I don't. What are they doing here? Why is the NBA? I mean, we know the reason is money, but
Is it
what are they doing? Why would they actually want to have the other 8 teams in a separate bubble playing meaningless games? What's the point?
Is it veiled as representation? Like we have to represent every fan base in this reboot? Like we can't leave.
Is that how they're spinning it? Maybe I don't know.
I mean, that would be the most valid. Like we can't leave goth Knicks fan, new metal fans out of this experience. We can't leave Golden State Warriors fans out of this. You're like,
Yeah, that doesn't really hold water, right?
but what else?
I mean, I hear you saying it in like the Adam Silver tone of voice, and well, we can't allow the Atlanta Hawks in this time of uncertainty not to play basketball in Chicago in the Checkers Challenge.
That's
is
exactly the way
America.
to do it. You'd be like, yo, it's been tough for everybody. This is going to be fun. Let's just do it. The players want to do it. The other teams want to do it. We can have some games, and every team will be represented in these next 2 months. So easy.
It makes no sense.
Well, it hasn't made sense since the jump, man.
Of course. I'm saying we have to like complete this season just for continuity, that it'll bring some joy to the country, even though these things are both bullshit. We know it's just money and there's nothing else to it. But at least you can say we're going to get a champion. To put the 8 teams who are already eliminated in another bubble, to have like another 8 teams of guys who might get sick,
It devalues the product, right? If this product is the NBA and games, this whole idea devalues the whole thing, right? It's like this could be a Peter Luger's scenario where we start talking about other stuff that the NBA does not want to talk about, like payouts and salary caps and the right to work as a young man. Like, does the NBA want this smoke if the games are this bad? Will we start like thinking? I don't know.
Well, the NBA, like inch by inch, showing its pasty ass. Because,
The moon pops them up.
in the same way, I think we've seen a tidal change in the way that people view the police. And I don't mean everyone, and I don't mean everyone's changed. And I don't mean everyone wasn't already there to begin with. But overall, we've looked at the police now in a different light. You shouldn't be here. It might have been just a feeling of distrust, a feeling of dislike, but now it's been distilled.
Yeah.
It's been calcified. We don't want you.
Your behavior is unacceptable. For
But
sure.
looking at them like, I don't want you to exist.
Yeah.
It's no longer, I wish you acted differently. It's like, I don't want to ever see you again. And every time I see a cop, that's exactly what I think now. Like, why are you here? Why is this universe putting you in front of me, standing on the street in your stupid vehicle with your mask around your chin?
You texted me the other night. You yelled at a cop.
Didn't yell at a cop.
You spoke to a cop directly.
There's a cop inside of a place with his mask off. And I was like, dude, put your mask on.
Reasonable. Not something someone who values authority loves to hear.
I mean, they're supposed to be role models, right? They're supposed to be the ones who are carrying out the law. They're just walking around in a 7-Eleven with his mask off. Get out of here.
I know. I'm glad you were not locked up with Ghislaine down in Chinatown.
I just told him to put his mask on. I didn't say it in a tough guy way.
And he responded with, how?
I don't know. I was walking out, and he said something. He didn't really hear me, and I said it again, like, put your mask on. And then I walked out. So I don't know if he actually did or not.
No, you were like an angry runner running past someone on the sidewalk.
Put your mask on. No, I wasn't like confrontational. I was just like, dude, can you put your mask on?
I know, which is such a simple idea and such a reasonable statement, but for someone who prides themselves on being an enforcer of authority, that is like deeply disrespectful, and it shouldn't be. And this whole thing is fucking broken.
Yeah, I'm not even a mask cop. You know, when I walk into a bodega and someone's like behind the counter and they're not wearing it, I'm like, that's a bad move, dude. You should be wearing it. But I'm not like upset about it. I'm just more like, all right, I wish this guy was doing better. But when it's a police officer, come on. Yeah. You guys are literally the tip of the spear, and that's what you want to be. Yeah. But we're seeing what they're about. We've already known that, but we're seeing how they aren't doing anything.
Yeah, I wish people would just really get to it, because we're not talking about them not being good examples. We're like, you guys are thieves and criminals. So
you guys are bad.
Yeah. So when you see someone, a cop inside without a mask, you say put a mask on, but you really mean to say is like, you're a murderer and a thief.
Can you not exist? And by that I mean, can you please put that mask over your face?
Yeah.
At least I'll see perhaps 2/3 less of it.
A lot of people chowing down. I don't even want to talk about eating. I almost started talking about phase 2, and I caught myself. That was close, man.
Well, phase 3 has been called off, mercifully.
Your boy BDB, he was like, phase 2 is going so great. We're gonna keep this going for a while.
Phase 2 is the same as phase 1. It's not even a different phase. It's the same phase.
There's some beautiful looking sidewalks in the East Village and Lower East Side right now. Shout out to some of these restaurants who are paying a ton of money to make these beautiful sidewalk cafes. I hope we get to keep them like forever.
You know, we've been talking about this exact same thing for a while. Was that even before the uprising and the civil unrest of the last month, we were talking specifically about, maybe we could come out of this a better city. Maybe we could come out of it a kinder city, a more livable city, one that looks out for its citizens. And these things that we're seeing, like being able to drink on the street, being able to eat on the street, marching and in protest. And you're like, these are parts of a healthier city than New York was, ironically. Because these things were not acceptable or tolerated or normal. And they make it feel like much more of a city. You know, you see people, you're around them, people are present, there aren't as many cars, there aren't as many pedestrians, there aren't people shoving around, there aren't tourists. It's a really interesting time, and I'm with you. Why should we go back to living how we were before?
Yeah, man. And, when you go to some really cool touristy cities in Europe and in Asia, there is a whole street culture there that is awesome. And, we've talked about this. I think the reason why we don't have amazing tacos in New York is there's no street food culture, and the cost to produce a product in a brick and mortar situation is outlandish. So you can't really get like singular points of view. You can't just get like one kind of taco from one person on the corner. And this is a Bloomberg vision and all that. He was into Hudson Yards. He was not into the Lower East Side becoming a block party. But you're right. This is like, let's make this place more livable. I am a stickler for transportation. I love bike sharing. I think we should put more money into that. But we should like make our subways good and not noisy and not gross and on time. That would just do wonders for our whole collective conscience, I think.
Why are our subways gross? Why? Fix that.
They're just like not they're not pleasurable parts of my day, and I take many subways and buses a lot these days, and man, they're the worst part of my day. And they need to be updated. The seats need to be updated. Everything is dirty, and there's food containers places, and like I just want to step it up a little bit. Just get 10% better, because that means our days are 10% more tolerable.
And defunding the police is a primary way to make the city a better place and more habitable. Not only because that money will be funneled towards things like housing and education and healthcare, but also you get rid of some of the cops. You get rid of over-policing. We don't need cops stopping people for jaywalking. We don't need the cops stopping people for riding their bike across the sidewalk. We don't need bureaucratic guys with the power to kill you all over the city. We don't need that. That makes the city less livable, makes it less tolerable, and a worse place for the people who live here, who aren't even the cops. Cops don't even live here. They don't even like New Yorkers. They don't even like the city.
I mean, we're too late in the pod to get into this debate, but you're talking about behavior, and behavior is the key here, because I think that we don't need to bring up cops when we want to make the subways better. Those two things should not be connected. Like,
well, I'm talking about the financial part. I'm saying,
but it should not be connected.
If we took $2 billion away from the police and put that into public transportation, it would probably make a dent.
Just put $2 billion into public transportation and deal with the cops as a different problem. Like, your job should not be connected to your health insurance. Like, that was a big error, I think in the last century.
Enormous. And
I hear people when they're like, put the cop money into schools, and I'm just like, just put a ton of money into schools.
I'm with that idea, what you're saying, but I'd also like it taken away from the cops.
I mean, fair.
I
hear you.
I'd also
on that.
prefer that we do that, especially if we're facing, huge losses because of COVID, and we have to make cuts everywhere. I'm like, I got a place. I know exactly where we can find almost $6 billion. Just turn over this rock. Here it is.
It's like, do you need this bulletproof vest that costs $14,000? Do you need 5,000 of these?
Do you need 50,000 cops? How about we give you 5?
Well,
one for each borough.
Yeah. Again, this is too late in the pod to get into this debate, but I think it's a behavioral issue, and you're right. There might be the architectural issue with this, but I think it is time to rebuild this whole concept. But I don't think like it's as simple as like fuck out of here. I think it's a really interesting part of the fabric of every society that needs to be addressed, and we're at that point now.
I think where we got on this tangent was the idea that if the NBA fucks this up, which they are on the verge of doing, they might be able to pull it off, but they are risking people viewing them very differently. You were the organization that made your athletes, the majority of which are black, go into a bubble where people got sick. Some people maybe got seriously sick. The basketball was lousy. You had to shut it down. And you did that. Why? Everyone knows it's for money. They are jeopardizing the way that people view the NBA. Because people view the NBA with a different sort of acceptance is the wrong word. There's a reverence for the NBA and a respect for the NBA that is different from Major League Baseball and is different from the NFL and is different from hockey. And I think the NBA is risking that reputation here.
Yeah, man, this is a Peter Luger's potential theory, right? Like, it might happen where the stakes are bad and you notice everything else isn't up to par either. I agree. I don't know how they can save it. Even if there's a fantastic tournament and we get Ben Simmons as finals MVP, and everyone's happy about that because we love Ben Simmons and everyone knows he's a top 3 player in the NBA.
Wow, it turns out, after all, a bunch of guys with MBAs from Lehigh were able to build a COVID dome. Incredible. Who knew they could pull it off?
But
Silver did it.
But even if it works out, the premise of it was there's a taste of cruelty in there that I cannot shake. Well, all you have to do is nothing.
I agree.
Wait.
I'm with you 100%. I have been very charitable towards the NBA, and everything that they say strikes me as so greedy and so inappropriate.
And manipulative, because players are like, I'm ready. Ben Simmons had that wonderful quote where he was like, I'm ready to play. I feel good. I want to represent the city of Philadelphia. And I'm like, that's awesome. That is such a sweet idea. And the NBA manipulated him into saying that because they put the ball in his court. So he became he is someone who has to describe these sentiments and play in this tournament. But for everyone's best interest, do not make a player do that.
But also, we know who is spearheading this effort, and it's 30 teams that are run by billionaires. And we know that the typical billionaire does not necessarily have interests of other people at heart. It's not how you get $1 billion usually.
And it's not their fault because they just don't understand human beings and living in this world.
Yes, I mean, it is their fault, but
you know what I mean.
I get what you're saying. I'm certainly not going to absolve them of guilt because they're the ones who sat there and got on a conference call with each other and said, no, we're going to basically force the players to play, and if they don't, we're going to tear up the CBA. That's what we're going to do because we don't want to lose money, despite the fact that we have billions. We just don't feel like losing money.
Yeah, it's like that I guess that speech that David Foster Wallace gave, what is water? And these owners are just like, you keep talking about this water thing, and I know I'm a fish, but I don't understand what you mean by the threat of death. It's like, I don't see it in my life. It's like, right, you're a fish, you don't know what water is. Like, it's like, it's a misunderstanding.
Make them live in the burger bubble.
Right. Make them just eat burgers for every meal as long as these games are getting played. It's cool for a couple times, but 5 days into it.
I'm saying, man, they should be in the bubble. That should be the rule. I know no one would ever agree to it, but you got to be in the bubble.
Hey,
Dolan, if
smoke
you
that whole
play,
pack of cigarettes.
Dolan, this is how you win. All of them, not just the 22 teams, all the owners. Dolan's got to be in the bubble for 3 months.
But this is the whole thing with COVID, right? This is like the Civil War stories we hear of people just hatcheting themselves to death in a field in White Plains while the generals have tea on a cliff. We hear these stories historically, and I'm like, right, this is just how.
But maybe we're off that.
Let's be off of it.
That's what I'm saying. Get those guys in the burger bubble. Josh Harris, welcome to the burger bubble. You live here now.
It's like, yeah. Do that war movie thing where you go out with your platoon, this is you, be a leader. Lead by example. You are in the burger, and then Stephen A. Smith is like, these guys are too horny for this bubble. And I'm like, that's ridiculous, but also a fine enough point, whatever.
James Dolan, you are in the Checkers Challenge.
James Dolan has to do everything that Ignacio Brisdakis, Ignatius, I don't know, man.
R.I.P. Isozo.
Why do they even do something like that now? What's the point? Out of here. What's the point, man? Just give him his paycheck. I mean, they traded him. Oh, no, they just released him.
Yeah.
I mean, I forget if he still gets that money, but why make a move like that now? That's just some fuck you stuff, right?
I mean, that's when you're serious about winning this Checkers Challenge.
Yo, what if the Knicks actually win this Checkers Challenge?
They should.
What if
I think
RJ
they're-
Barrett beats Steph Curry?
I think whoever wins this should be anointed a co-champion. Like, fuck it.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you're gonna make these guys go into the Checkers Challenge, then yeah, if you win that, you're the co-champion.
Your starting 5 guys will have 5 guys for life.
Finals MVP, Davis Bertans. Oh,
he said he's not
out.
playing,
He's out.
right? Oladipo's out too, right?
Oladipo's out, yeah.
But he has a gruesome injury, and he did not look right. So that is about his kneecap, right?
I think so, yeah. Someone was talking about, like, instead of an asterisk, I think whoever wins this year should get a gold star because it's extra impressive. Everyone's like,
I've heard that take.
Yeah, no, we're going to do the asterisk.
Yeah, I've heard that take, being like, this is the most important championship of all time because we're all suffering for all these reasons. I'm like, yeah, no, we're gonna laugh at this, and it's gonna be hilarious. I mean, the Celtics have no chance, so I'm not gonna do that.
Well, weird, because this was the most important episode of Cookies.
Well, they just keep on getting more important, right?
More and more perfect. Every pod more perfect than the last.
Cookies.
Cookies!